A lot of people complain about the negative images in black media. Now, while I have made complaints about the negative images in black media, I also make efforts to try to counter program these negative images in black media. What is counter programming? Counter programming is when you present an alternative to what the mainstream is presenting. And counter programming is quite effective in letting people know what the opposing viewpoint is to the so-called perceived social norm or the stereotype. And with counter programming is very important because that's the only way you're going to get, a different perspective on an image. And when it comes down to black media, we desperately need more counter programming. We need people to continue to produce, this type of content. I saw a need for this content way back in 1989, when I was in high school, when I saw the NWA come out. And as I saw these minstrel images then start to emerge and evolve and change, I really desperately, I said to myself that we really need some positive images about black people then. We need somebody to continue to carry the torch because, a couple of years later, I graduated from high school, and the Cosby Show was no more. And then later on, after the O.J. Simpson trial, we really started to see a decline in the positive images of black people. And right now, we desperately need counter programming to counter the constant minstrel show and series of minstrel shows that are being presented to black people. These negative images that have been constantly, bombarding black people over the last 15 years of this new millennium. We have had, non-stop minstrels, non-stop coons. And that's one of the reasons why I'm so passionate about the SJS Direct imprint and trying to, keep this catalog of books in print and trying to reach more readers all over the world because I want to effectively counter program all of this negative images that I see in African American media because people have no idea, what this media does to you on a daily basis, how this media, watching this media, imbibing it, affects you on the inside because the images you watch eventually become a reflection of who you are. And if you continue to watch a lot of, thugs, minstrels, coons, mammies, Jezebels, eventually this is who you become because this is the media you imbibe, again, becomes a part of who you are. This is not just entertainment. These images are here for a reason, and you have to really understand why these images are here and what they represent because the Madison Avenue advertisers and the Hollywood studios want to present a certain type of image of black people to the world, and they're only going to support those who promote this type of image, i.e., your Lee Daniels, your Tyler Perry, your Oprah Winfrey's, who present this, people who fit within this narrative of their interpretation of the black experience. They don't want to see, a multidimensional full picture of the black experience. They want something that fits their narrative of the black experience. And when it comes down to these, people in Hollywood and Madison Avenue, what they want to see is this white supremacist image, where the black person is poor and miserable and downtrodden, or the black person is, needs the help of some great white savior, or the person who is black is completely dysfunctional. And, there's always a need for some sort of codependent type relationship in this type of media, or these black people are just so dysfunctional that even if they get things like in your empire, they're just complete minstrels and complete idiots. But that's not who we are, and that's not an accurate reflection of who we are. When that's why, and again, that's why I believe we need counter programming, and that's one of the reasons why, again, I started the SJS Direct Publishing imprint, is because I wanted to present different images, that positive images of the African American experience, and then also a broader picture of the African American experience. That's why I do, fantasy and science fiction like your ISIS series or your Ace Team series, and books like The Temptation of John Ames. In addition to, contemporary books like The Recipe for Success and The Thetas, I do these type of books because I really want to give people, that different picture of the African American experience. I want people to get an understanding that, black is just not in one box. And this is one of the things that Madison Avenue Advertising Hollywood Studios and white supremacy wants to do. They want to make black mean one thing. They want to define black as, one thing. But as I've come up and grown up over the years, I understand that, there is more than one black experience and there is more than one story of African American culture and African American life. There's many stories within the black experience, and we only get one story, the one that fits white supremacy's narrative about black people. This is what we get, and we really need to start expanding, out of that circle and start telling different stories about black culture and the different ways of life and different experiences black people have had, all over this country. And that's one of the things I try to do in my stories is I try to show you, different cultures, different experiences, um, different perspectives of the black experience. I try to put all of that in my stories with a little bit of literary elements, your irony, your foreshadowing, your contrast, um, you know, your symbolism. And I try to bring fuse all of this stuff together in one in a story so that it can be entertaining and exciting, but it also, provides that counterpoint to what we've been getting in the mainstream media for the last 15 years. I mean, I look at the legacies of guys like Bill Cosby, Dwayne McDuffie, and other African Americans who have worked in media, and I really want to build on their foundation and expand, um, you know, their work and show, all of these different black experiences and all of these different black parts of the black culture that, nobody ever really talks about. Nobody really ever talks about different parts of the black community, different parts of the black experience. Nobody really talks too much about it. We usually get, one picture, one story, and that's what we've been getting late, especially over the last 15 years. We've gotten this one narrative, and we really need to start coming out of that narrative. And I believe that diversity in African American storytelling and diversity in African American culture is going to be a very good thing. I believe that a lot of people, they think that going by this whole monolithic thing, this monolithic narrative, is effective, but I feel that it's effective counter programming for us to see these different stories and different experiences and to really start coming out of the box and doing something new with, art. I mean, this is supposed to be the new millennium, and I look at African American literature, African American art, African American entertainment, and African American media overall, and it looks like it's taking a step back. It's not moving ahead. And I really want to see African American media really move ahead, and move forward. And the only way for it to move forward is if people start making efforts to counter program it, what's out in the mainstream media. And I take my own money to do this, to publish these books, like you see in the behind me. I take all of my own personal savings to do this. And this is even though I've been out of work, because this means so much to me to counter program, all of these negative images in media. It means a lot to me, because I understand how the images we see today affect the next generation and affect how they see themselves and affect, the values that they teach their children. It's very important for us to, be careful about what type of media we imbibe, what type of messages we read and see, because again, they have a direct effect on who we are and what we think and how we feel. Because when you watch a lot of negative media, it in turn makes you negative, and that's something you really have to think about. Is that these images, this stuff, it has a very dangerous effect on you. Because I've seen, you know, the the whole effect of this, over the last 20, 25 years that I've been studying media and that I've been, examining it. I mean, this whole dysfunctional thug culture, which started in 1989 with the start of the NWA, these coons with attitude, has evolved and devolved, as I've seen, into this effeminate, we've gone from these insecure, hyper masculine males who were overcompensating with guns, basically they were just simps with guns, to this effeminate male who's borderline homosexual. And, these men in dress, and that all goes into everything because, when you watch the Tyler Perry movies, A Man in a Dress, what they're trying to do is, they're trying to feminize this black man. They're trying to make him effeminate, trying to make him weak, and they're trying to dysfunctionally make the black woman into this perpetual victim who always needs, some type of savior to save her. And this is not who black people are. And this is one of the reasons why I try to counter-program with my books this type of media, because you need to see a balanced, humanized image of black people. You need to see um, humanized images of black people who are functional, black people who take responsibility for their lives, and even, as I say, science fiction and fantasy images so that you can imagine what black people can actually be in the future or what they were in the past. It's about, giving you that broader perspective of black life, black culture, and the black experience so that you can have that different perspective so you can really think about what is black and try to make your own definition of what is black. Because the big problem with the black culture is that, everybody's trying to make it all fit into one box and try to make it conform to what white supremacy wants it to be. And that's not productive for black people. We have to redefine what black is and define it by our own standard. And that's one of the things why I feel it's so important to counter program, and I put so much of my own money in my personal savings. Even though I've been out of work for quite some time, I put my own money into it because, again, I really believe in it, and I want to see, these different images and these different ideas, because an image is, like they say, a picture's 1,000 words. When you have one image, it says a lot, and it can really shape how people see blackness and how it can see, um, you know, black people. And when we start taking our own images, I've seen, growing up as a kid, when we controlled hip hop, when we were making when people like Robert Townsend and the Hudlin Brothers were making movies, and Spike Lee was making movies, I saw a different, and Bill Cosby had the Cosby Show on. I saw a different image of black people when we defined our own image. And I noticed that, it was very humanized, it was very balanced, and it was very unique. Each guy had his own, fingerprint in telling his own story. But I look at the images today and I don't see any distinction. I don't see any difference. I see a lot of I see a lot of the same thing all the time. Um, just nonstop coons, nonstop minstrels, nonstop stereotypes, and there's not that many people out here trying to make an effort to counter program it. Or if they do try to make an effort to counter program it, they don't really, really get heard out here. Nobody's really passing the word on about their work. Um, and we really need to have more black people, going out here and trying to counter program this coonery, this nonstop minstrel show, because again, this stuff has a huge impact on how our children see themselves and how they see the world around them. And that's something I shudder at when I think about, what these kids are gonna when these kids grow up, what type of adults they're going to be, because they see these images, these black folks acting like complete fools on social media, black people acting like complete fools on YouTube, black people having Facebook wars and Twitter wars, having arguments on Blog Talk Radio. This is all stuff that's going to be logged as a historical record, and I I think it's really sad that this is going to be, the way the world is going to see black people, and our kids are going to see black people 20, 30 years to come. And I look at it, and that's one of the reasons why I work so hard, to get books out here and try to ebooks out here, because I want people to have that different image and understand that there are counter images out there. And I'm urging more black people to start, counter programming all of this coonery and all of these minstrel shows, because people need to see the truth about the black experience. They need to see that bigger picture of the black experience and black culture, because it's up to us to take it out of the sewer. Because right now, the image of the African American is in the complete sewer. The Negro's image is completely, it's in the garbage, and it's up to us to pick it up, wash off all the filth, and make it the best it can possibly be. That's all I have to say for this video. You can comment, rate, and subscribe.